Kris, you've had a few days now. You watch video a lot on the team, and when you're placing for 7 games, can you maybe talk about what you feel is the biggest challenge that Vegas will present that's different from LA?
I think there's a lot of things that they do well, and I don't want to discredit LA at all. One, I think their defense make it hard to get to the net, how big they are, but as big as they are and physical as they are, they still have a lot of offensive ability. Usually you think of big, strong defensemen being stay-at-home guys that don't produce much offensive in the play, but I don't think that's the case with them at all. I think all 6 of them provide some offense, but make it hard to get, for the opposition, hard to get to the net, just with their size and strength. With their systems, LA was a man-on-man. LA is completely different than that. But I think the biggest thing is just how dangerous they are off the rush as a group. They scored more goals off the rush than any team in the NHL during the regular season. So that's going to be really important that we are managing pucks and we have a good back check to limit those opportunities.
Do you find that a lot of their chances off the rush stem from turnovers high in the defensive zone? Are they a good counter team, or are they just very efficient off of the rush specifically?
Yeah, I think it's a little of everything. I don't think there's one thing that they say, oh, we really pounce on this type of play. Yes, there's turnovers. That's a big part of it. Whether it's a change of possession in their defensive zone and they've got quick transition going the other way. The forwards can make some good plays if you give them some space. I don't know. There's just collectively, for many reasons, why they score a lot off the rush.
David, check in on the goaltending. Are you willing to name a starter yet for Game 1? See you tomorrow?
See you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. With McDavid and Draisaitl, the argument for, apart versus together is often about depth through the lineup and such. But when your lines shape up the way they do right now, the way they finished last series, does it make it easier to keep those two together when you've got, the continuity that you had late in that series and the quality?
There's pros and cons of having them together, separate, and, one pro would be of them playing together is obviously you've got a dangerous first line. They get a lot of ozone face-offs together that they can create something. Probably the biggest advantage is how well everyone else is playing. That lines 2 through 4 have something going right now. I guess the disadvantage would be having 2 players of that caliber not on separate lines to make it more difficult for the opposition. So there's pros and cons, and I'm sure throughout the series we will see both scenarios.
Hey, Kris, I just wanted to ask you about Calvin Pickard. Like, when he first got here, he was that backup goalie that if he didn't play well, there was chances that he would have been back in the minors. And I just want to ask you about his evolution from a guy, as the stopgap guy, to a guy now you can really rely on to carry the ball if needed to, like he did at the end of the season and like he's doing now.
Yeah, from my time here, I've never seen a backup third string type goalie who should be in the minor leagues. Since I got here, we got here roughly about the same time. He's looked like a quality NHL goalie, and he's been winning a lot of hockey games, giving us great starts even when he hasn't played for long stretches. And right now, this is the last month, the end of the season when Skinner was hurt and now the playoffs, starting 4 in a row. This is the most he's played since probably his rookie year 12 years ago. And I know he's learned a lot through the adversity of being that role depth guy that he has for most of his career, but also through that time has allowed him to really enjoy this opportunity of being back in the NHL and not a guy that's been up and down, used when needed. So, obviously he's put in a lot of work. He's got a lot of talent, and I think he's enjoying it, and we're appreciating his good play.
Sometimes when the backup or the 1A goes into the net, the team has a tendency to play a little tighter in front of him, a little more responsible in front of him. How do you see your team when Calvin's in net? Is it much different than when Stewart's in, or how are you seeing that dynamic?
That's something I've heard a lot of from past teams that I've been on, management or other teams. Hear that the team plays better in front of another goalie than the other. And in my experience, whether it's here in Edmonton or other teams, I don't necessarily see that. I think our guys are going to play hard and responsible no matter who's in net. And, here they might feel a little bit better because it's a guy that doesn't get that recognition, those starts, as many as, your typical starter. Just like when, I don't know, let's just say Noah Phillips scored a goal in the regular season, guys would get a little more excited on the bench than if they saw Leon Draisaitl score his 43rd. So that's kind of mentality. What I see guys playing similar and getting excited about as the same. So I don't think we change or how we play no matter who's in that.
Vegas had one of the best power plays in the league in the regular season. Your penalty kill was better the second half of the first round series in the first half. From seeing them on video and playing against them this season, what do you think are going to be some of the keys against their power play?
All season long, they had a very strong power play. They had some ups and downs, but their downs were usually when they had some injuries and their regular five weren't available. But overall, they were able to keep it pretty hot. And, what we've seen through them, through our games in the regular season and pre-scouting what they did against Minnesota or other teams, they'll be adjusting, they'll be changing things up a little bit, they'll be watching what we've done. And during the regular season, you're always changing and focusing on certain things on the power play a little bit or special teams. But when you hit the playoffs, it gets a lot more specific because you're going to see a team possibly 7 games in a row opposed to just one and then you're done. You're not going to revamp your whole power play just for one night. So I'm sure they're going to be making a lot of adjustments to their power play. But, obviously the power play runs through Eichel. A lot of the plays that he makes, you've got to be very aware of what he can do. So obviously we need, for a good penalty kill, you need good sticks, you need good pressure up ice, and they are going to get chances. You need your goaltender to make some big saves.
You have a much more clear idea of your lineup going into this series than you did the last series. How much easier, I guess, does that make your job in terms of preparing for Vegas?
Makes it a lot more easier. I know exactly where everyone is right now. There's probably at least a half dozen guys who were just coming off injuries, whether that was for a couple weeks or a couple months or almost a year. You're not sure where they're going to fit in, how they're going to play individually or how they're going to play with a couple other guys. We've had some games that they've meshed and they've been playing well together. So for me, it gives me a lot clearer picture. Now that's going to change. We're going to not necessarily sure of what Vegas's lines are going to be, what the matchups are going to be set at, and then we'll be, having to tinker. But at least I know what's worked well and who's playing well. That gives me a better option or idea what will be successful.
Kris, offensively, you're the most potent offense in the first round. Defensively, you're still allowed the second most behind LA. How do you view your defensive overall game right now for your team, and what you like about it, and what are the areas that you just want to tighten up?
Well, I'll say Game 6 is probably an outlier of what and how we played. I think that was one game we were poor defensively. I see a lot of the opportunities coming from self-inflicted wounds. There's a difference between making a mistake and defending. And I think overall through the series, minus the last game, we defended really well. Didn't give up many opportunities from the other team making plays because I thought we checked well. Where we gave up a lot of opportunities were self-inflicted mistakes. And a lot of those off the breakouts, just not making a play, maybe a turnover in the neutral zone, those kind of things where are more of an offensive type play that went wrong. So, and I think as the series went on, we got a lot better at those type of plays. And against LA Vegas, the defending, how we defend is going to be a lot different, but we want to defend as well as we did, or for the most part as well as we did in the first round, but limit those mistakes.
Kris, as a coach, is it more difficult or easier when you're not sure which goaltender to play? When you were in New York organization, it was just Durkin was playing. I'm sure Winnipeg, it's Hellebuck. Is it easier, more difficult, or what?
It's extremely difficult when you have two goalies that you have no confidence in and you're going back and forth. I feel that we've got two goalies that can give us a great game and win us that night every single time. So I would say I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity. I would say most of the time a coach has their 1A and they ride them right through, so you don't have to think about it at all. We do have to think about what's best for our situation. Like I said, we've got two goalies that can win a game any night, so yeah, we give it a little more thought, so maybe that makes it a little more difficult.
One more. LA had Kopitar and Deneau to check Leon and Connor. They have Carlson and Eichel. In the last game against Minnesota, they played Carlson on the same line. Are you anticipating that perhaps that Carlson might play with Eichel if you're going to play Leon and Connor together?
I think a lot of it has to do with, they have one forward injury that will probably influence what their lines are going to be. I know Carlson's been majority a centerman, but later half of that series, he was moved up more of a checking role against Minnesota's top line. I'm anticipating what they do will probably depend on what we decide to do. Is Leon and Connor going to be on the same line, or are they going to be on separated? So I think probably we'll have to make the first move, and they'll probably counter.